Hi guys, it's Mr. Jackson with Blanket here. Here to read chapter 22 of Everlost by Neal Shusterman with permission of Simon and Schuster. And I want to show you something. We are almost done with this book. We're chapter 22 and there are 30 chapters. So altogether that means we have 30 minus 22 equals 8 chapters left. And if I'm correct, I think that means we'll finish not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And then right after that, we can go into the next one. So that's exciting. Okay. Hope everybody's doing well on this Thursday. And Blanket and I are going to read for you. Chapter 22. Member of the Cabinet. Nick had made it out, but there was nowhere on the Sulphur Queen for him to go. Everywhere, at every staircase, every gangway, every hatchway, was some ugloid cleaning. True, the ship was full of dark corners in which to hide. But dark corners were useless to him because he couldn't douse his afterlight glow. A corner was no longer dark once he was in it. He didn't have a plan for getting off the ship, but maybe if he could find Allie, they could work together. By now, she must know the ship better than he did. The problem was, he had no idea where she was, and he wasn't in any position to go traipsing around the ship looking for her. In the end, he retreated back into the bowels of the ship. Not the chiming chamber, but one of the treasure holds. It was the best place to hide, for no one dared come down to disturb the McGill's possessions. He would hide here until the night hours, when the crew was down below, engaged in games or brawls or whatever. Those were the hours when he could more easily sneak around the ship. Then he would search for Allie. But for now, he found himself in a large oak cabinet. He slipped inside, pulled the doors tightly closed, and waited. The dragon's hoard in the central treasure hold was a treacherous mountain of mist-matched booty. Allie, who had been here several times hunting for books worth reading and other things to pass the time, knew she had seen an old-fashioned typewriter. She just wasn't sure where. The stuff in the chamber was a mixture of pure junk and treasure. The McGill did not discriminate. If an object crossed over and he could get his hot little hands on it, it came on board and got dumped here. Jewels sat side by side with empty beer bottles. The McGill was currently in his war room, planning a landing party to a green soul trap in Rockaway Point. As he was occupied, this gave Allie time to search. Climbing between the old filing cabinets and the car tires, coat racks, and bed frames was no easy chore, and with no light but her own glow to guide her through the debris, it was rough going. She nearly got pinned beneath an airplane propeller and flattened by an iron lug, but finally she found the typewriter beneath an old table. It was made of black, dull metal. The keys were faded from many years of use before it had crossed over. A little emblem on its face said, Smith Corona. Her grandmother had an old-fashioned typewriter like this one. She still used it. Words aren't words unless you pound them out, she used to say. Allie found a slip of paper among the mess and figured out how to load it into the machine. Typing, Allie discovered, was a lot like keyboarding with none of the speed and 5 times the effort. She shuddered to think of people spending day after day plunging their fingers against little circular keys, which sank down with a whole inch before flinging up an iron arm to smack the ribbon and leave a single letter imprinted on the page. She was thankful she had only a short phrase to type, but even so, she made enough mistakes to slow her down. The little typing arms getting stuck together like too many people trying to fit through a door. The little typing arms kept getting stuck together like too many people trying to fit through a door. It took her 4 attempts before she had typed her message perfectly. Then she put the typewriter back where she found it and went looking for scissors. In the end, she had to settle for the tiny scissors on a Swiss Army knife she had found on the floor. When she was done, she slipped the little piece of paper into her pocket. She was about to put down the Swiss Army knife when she heard the voice behind her. "Admiring my treasure." She spun so fast a Swiss Army knife flew from her hand and embedded itself into the McGill's dangling eye. He pulled it out and dropped it to the floor. The wound healed instantaneously, as did all wounds in Everlost. "Careful," he said. "You'll put out an eye with that thing." Allie gave him a weak chuckle. "If you're trying to steal something, I wouldn't. If I were you," he said. "Anything you steal, I will make you eat. It might not hurt, but you'll feel it sitting in your stomach forever." "I'm not stealing," Allie told him. "I'm just exploring." The McGill turned to look toward the door leading to the chiming chamber. "I'm surprised you're not visiting your friends." "I don't need to visit them," she said. "You'll free them soon enough." "Are you sure of that?" "How do you know I'll keep my word?" "I don't, but what choice do I have but to trust you?" The McGill pulled his lips back in a smile and reached a hand toward her. She grimaced, not wanting to feel his dry, bloated touch, but instead, her cheek was met by something soft. She looked down to see that his right hand was no longer covered in peeling scales, but instead in soft, mink-like fur. The fingertips still had sharpened yellow nails, but the hand itself was soft. "As I said, I've been working on giving myself a soft touch." Allie still pulled away. "Don't change yourself for me." "I'll change myself any way I like." "It's still monstrous." "Good. That's how I like it." The McGill looked around proudly at his treasure trove. "There are girls' clothes in here. You could find something nicer to wear." "I can't take off what I'm wearing. It's what I died in." "You can wear something over it." Then the McGill spotted a big oak cabinet. "I think there might be something in there." And with both hands, he grabbed the handles and pulled it wide open. Nick had heard the whole conversation between Allie and the McGill, and through it all, he counted the seconds until the McGill would leave. When he heard the McGill mention the cabinet, his heart sank. It was just his luck, wasn't it? If the McGill opened the cabinet and saw him, he'd probably hurl the entire thing over the side with Nick still in it. Nick pulled his knees to his chest, tried desperately to hide behind a wedding dress that was hanging in there, and closed his eyes. The cabinet creaked open, and Allie, who was standing a few feet back, saw Nick immediately. She gasped. She couldn't help it. The McGill, however, standing right in front of the cabinet, had a view of the wedding dress and not the boy behind it. The McGill turned to Allie, obviously thinking her gasp was about the gown. Allie forced her eyes away from Nick, so the McGill couldn't follow her gaze. The tip of Nick's shoe was sticking out from under the dress, so Allie approached it and fluffed the petticoat out a bit, pretending to admire the lacy fabric. It hid the tip of the shoe from view. Thankfully, the dress was thick enough to hide Nick's glow, and the cabinet had a strong camphor stench of mothballs, which overpowered any hint of chocolate in the air. "I won't be a monster's bride," Allie said. Then she grabbed the doors of the cabinet and forced them closed, nearly catching the McGill's hand in the process. The McGill glared at her. "Who said I'd ask you?" Then he stormed away. Allie waited until she was sure he was gone, then waited twice that long before she returned to the cabinet and pulled it open. "What are you doing here? Do you know how dangerous it is if they find out you escaped?" "They won't find out. There are hundreds of kids in there. It's not like they count us all the time. If you're caught, you're history." "So I won't get caught." Allie looked around. "Did Leaf come with you? Is he hiding somewhere else?" Nick shook his head. "He's still in there with the others." Then he smiled. "It's a mess in there. I got them all tangled up." "How is hiding in here any better than hanging in there?" "I'm not staying in this cabinet. As soon as I can, I'm getting off this ship and I'm bringing back help." "And exactly how are you going to do that?" That's the part I haven't figured out yet." "I'm the one with the plan," said Allie. "Escaping now will just screw things up." "We've been waiting on your plan for weeks." "Weeks," thought Allie. "How has it been weeks?" "The best plans take time," she told him. Nick took a moment to look her over, then said, "I think you like it with the McGill. You've got some kind of power over him, don't you?" "I don't know what it is, but you do, and you like it." Allie wanted to just grab him and shake him. It was an insulting suggestion. It was preposterous, and it was true. "I have a scheme to get us all out of here if you just wait." "I'm not waiting anymore. And anyway, 2 schemes are better than 1. Ellie clenched her fists and growled, sounding more like the McGill than she cared to admit. "Even if you get off the ship, who do you think is going to help you?" "Mary," Nick said. Allie laughed at that and realized how loud her voice had gotten. She looked around to make sure they were still alone, then brought her voice down to an intense whisper. "She didn't help us before, and she won't help us now." "I can convince her. I know I can." "You're an idiot." "We'll see who's the idiot." As frustrating as this was, Allie did not want to stand around and argue. Every moment they spoke was another moment they were in danger of being caught. "I can steal a lifeboat," Nick said. "Once they realize it's gone, it won't take long to figure out who took it. The McGill will punish Leaf, and probably me too." "We can cut Leaf down. All 3 of us can go." Allie thought about it, but shook her head. "The McGill thinks I'm teaching him how to possess people. The second he realizes I'm gone, he'll come after me." No, thought Allie. The best way to get Nick off the ship would be to do it secretly, and in such a way that there was no telltale sign that he had gone. "How about this?" Allie said. "Tomorrow morning, the McGill is sending out a landing party to check one of his green soul traps. If you can somehow get aboard that boat when it heads out for shore." "Okay, that might work." "I'll stay on deck and try to keep anyone there distracted. But it's up to you to find a way to hide on that boat." Allie thought about it. "I'll put some blankets in the boat. Maybe you can hide beneath them." Allie looked around again and leaned closer to Nick. "If you get through to Mary, tell her that if she wants to face the McGill, then she has to go on to Atlantic City. There's a gang there that can help her fight the McGill, if she can convince them to join forces. Allie shut the doors to the cabinet, closing Nick in once more. Remember, tomorrow at dawn. How will I know when it's dawn? Said Nick from the inside. She left Nick to work that one out for himself. She climbed up to the quarterdecks, then out into the open air. It was twilight, and the McGill was at the bow, watching the sun set over the land. He did this each day. The McGill was such an odd beast, reveling in his own putrescence, and yet taking joy from the beauty of a world he was no longer part of. Nick said they had been there for weeks, and Allie couldn't deny it. For the life of her, she had no feel for the time that had passed. Well, she had stalled long enough. Nick was right. It was time for action. She quietly went to the McGill's throne, dipped her hand into the spittoon, and pulled out a fortune cookie. Gently, she found a corner of the paper inside it and carefully pulled it out, crumpled it, and inserted the fake fortune that she had typed. Then she dropped the cookie back into the container where it sat like a little time bomb, waiting for the McGill's grubby, greedy claw. At dawn the following day, the McGill and a crew of 5 left the Sulphur Queen on a lifeboat for a brief trip to Rockaway Point. Someone had left several blankets in the corner of the boat, and the McGill removed them, ordering they be thrown into the hold with the rest of his belongings. There was no need of them here. The boat was lowered to the water, and the McGill ordered the motor started, and they were off. No one paid much attention to the mooring rope tied to the lifeboat's bow, which dragged in the water. Had they pulled that rope in, they would have found Nick submerged beneath the waves, holding on with the rope wrapped around his arm twice as the boat powered its way to shore. So that was chapter 22. Time for a couple questions. So, first question is, we left the chapter with Nick towing behind the McGill's lifeboat on a rope. Do you think do you think Nick will get caught by the McGill? And if he does get caught, what do you think is going to happen to him? So that's kind of a prediction. Next one is another prediction. Allie found a typewriter and created her own fortune that she put into the fortune, one of the McGill's fortune cookies. She took out his fortune and put in her new one. First of all, what is your prediction about what you think that fortune might say? What do you think Allie wrote on the fortune? And second, do you think that a fake fortune in a fortune cookie will come true the same way that real fortunes in fortune cookies will come true? Why or why not? Last question is about a word that I just thought was an interesting and challenging vocabulary word. At one point it says, the McGill was such an odd beast, reveling in his own putrescence and yet taking joy from the beauty of a world he was no longer part of. So what do you think putrescence means? A couple clues. Talk this through with you. It kind of suggests that maybe it's the opposite of beauty, because it's a contrast between putrescence is on one side and beauty of the world was on another side. And another thing, the word putrid means something that's really kind of gross and rotting. And putrescence to me sounds a little bit like putrid. So what do you think the word putrescence means? Yeah, so I'll leave it there. I will see you tomorrow with chapter 23. And yeah, we're getting really close to the end. Cool. Stay safe. Miss you. Bye.